Kathryn.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, thanks for joining today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk about what we've been exploring with our product at Backlit. We're going to really be thinking about like sort of contextually like what people are really wanting from tools to support them. 3 phrases that we're going to keep coming back to today: capture, contextualize, and carry forward.
Yep. There's a big gap today in the market between products that are out there versus what people want and need.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Before we get into product anything, like what's sort of the human condition? Like what's the backdrop of what we're thinking about here for this product?
So as people go through their daily lives,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different categories or segments of life that we live. We have work, we have family, we have health and wellness. But when we look at actually managing the components of our lives, when you manage them in silos, you are addressing issues in silos and by themselves, but they're actually not surfacing in that way in your life. They are integrated across your entire life. Your life is a holistic thing.
Yeah.
And we need to take a look at your life holistically, even though there are different segments within that life. So what's out there today, what we're seeing as we're starting to like look at the market or look at the human condition that we really want to address with Backlit is that there's nothing out there that's holistically addressing everything all together. Products and solutions are really very targeted to specific areas of people's lives.
Yeah.
But because of that, they're not able to holistically address an entire person.
Yeah. So something like Asana for work, some to-do list or something for personal, sketch to-do list on the fridge for other stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about, or?
Right. Also, like individual apps for
Right.
different activities that your children may be involved in or that you may be involved in.
Yeah.
Different apps that you might have that you have to engage with on a daily basis or even throughout the day for different aspects of your life, your children, your health, your work. You've got different chat platforms on your phone for work and for messaging other parents, so really just figuring out the backdrop. Yeah. So it's just all this different, just noise all over the place. And none of it's talking to each other.
Right. So, and the idea is like, do we feel stressed differently from like something that's bugging us on an Asana versus is this, do we feel that stress any differently based on what part of our life it's coming from?
Not necessarily. You may feel more stressed because work is more hectic at one, point in your life, or your family has more things going on than it would normally, and you're trying to juggle that versus your work.
Yeah.
But when you look at the different stress levels,
Yeah.
You are one person. You're one person experiencing that stress. So while different areas of your life might be causing that stress, it's still you experiencing that stress. And being able to holistically address that is something that I feel like is very necessary.
I want to introduce a topic that we've talked about a lot, but might be kind of new for some of our listeners. So the list restart cycle.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So if you think about the list restart cycle, think about those times in your life where you've gone into creating a to-do list, whether it be on a piece of paper, within an app, in your Google Calendar. You're just creating all these tasks, these to-dos, things that you either need to or really want to do and to accomplish. And that list has a tendency to just grow until it becomes overwhelming. And so a lot of the times what people will do is they'll just abandon the list and they'll start over, right? And they just start fresh. And it's just this never-ending cycle of I'm building my to-do list, I'm building my goals, I'm building my resolutions, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going after this list of things or goals that I want to accomplish, but then at some point I'm taking a step back and I'm starting over.
Right. So yeah, you start strong. You have the list. You have New Year's resolutions, or brand new productivity tool. You got the right coding or categorization, and then like a couple weeks later, it starts to look stale.
Yep.
And then there's also another term that we've heard or that we know is common for this is like to-do list bankruptcy. So people just stop and I can't do it.
Yeah. Just wipe it clean, start over, or don't.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm guilty of this, right? Like I've started multiple productivity systems, right? I think this is a pretty common occurrence.
Yeah. I also have done this on multiple occasions.
All right, so this list restart cycle, like people have done it lots of times. We just talked about we've done it ourselves. So like why do they fail? Like why do these why do we not why aren't we able to keep with them?
So first of all, creating these lists, it requires the person who the list is for
Yeah.
to actually maintain the list.
Yeah.
Right? They have to keep up with entering the items, setting the deadlines, adjusting the items, marking them as done for the list to actually be accurate. And the list itself doesn't actually have any ability to take into account other things that might be going on in your life or changing of priorities without the individual manually going in and updating that.
Right.
Right. So there's a huge opportunity here for some intelligence there, right? Where not only can the list kind of build itself, but the responsibilities around the list, the people and places that the items on the list relate to, the priorities in the user's life that, may change over time.
Yeah.
Maybe just because the person's preferences have changed, but also because there's other things that have happened in their lives that adjustments need to be made.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are today. That's the opportunity that we have to create better systems for the people out there hoping to do more and be more present in their lives.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me go back to something that I think you said in there that was like sort of pretty fundamental, is like that the storing and tracking requires a lot of effort, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like in terms of somebody's like day by day? Like what what do they have to do to actually maintain one of these systems?
It has to remain top of mind, number one. It's got to always be forefront in their minds. When they do something that's on the list, they have to remember to go and mark it as done.
Right.
When something bubbles up in the moment, they have to remember to go put it on the list or it risks, falling out of their minds.
Right.
And not getting done.
Yeah.
Something that might be super important, but they get distracted before they can actually put it on the list.
Oh my gosh.
To be stored and tracked.
Yeah, I think I've done that 100 times, right? Where you're like running, like I'm running somewhere with my daughter, and like I get a text, I look at it real quick, and then I don't do anything with it, right? And then like 3 days later, somebody's like, "Hey, why didn't you like respond to this or whatever?"
Yeah,
it is, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So all right, so this idea of like manual maintenance doesn't necessarily fit the mold. Like what does work?
Yeah, I think what is missing is that. Like you said, manual.
Yeah.
So what's missing is the automation.
Right.
But how do you get to the automation?
Yeah.
Right. We've got so many tools, systems, processes, technologies out in the world today that we're all juggling. We're all trying to make sense of. We're all in our head trying to categorize and put together and just, keep organized. And it's all up here.
Yeah.
Right. It's nowhere but up there. There's no tool or place where we can just put it all together and see one holistic picture of everything that's going on.
Right.
So some way that takes some of that manual entry, manual organization out and puts it in a holistic place where I'm saying like, oh, this is my world.
Yeah.
That's where we are today.
At the top, we talked about those three phrases, right?
Yep.
Those three things, the 3 C's. Capture, contextualize, carry forward. Walk me through them one at a time.
So capture, we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but in the way it is today, where we need to document something. We need to take something and say like, I am putting this thing somewhere. Today, what that means is you're going into whatever app or process you're using to track your to-dos, to track your world and saying like, hey, I need to put this thing on here. I need to submit this proposal by this date.
Oh, right. Dates and categories and all that.
I need to pay my property taxes by, May 15th, whatever it may be. That's the way we're capturing things today.
Yeah.
It's very manual.
Yeah.
But there's a huge opportunity to automate a lot of that capture because so much of what we have going on today is systematic, right? If we can plug into those systems and just start capturing those items as they come through, storing them, that's a huge improvement to where we are today in terms of like the capture motion.
Yeah.
But then building upon that to the contextualize motion, right? There's nothing really today that is in place to take what's been captured and add context to it. And that context can be, deadlines.
Yeah.
other people that it involves. Also just contextualizing my world. So, who are my children? Who are my pets? Who's my partner? Where do I work? Who's my best friend? What are their birthdays? Right? And gathering those things about those people. And as I capture items going on in my world, contextualizing them to those people that I have learned about that belong to me and associating them with them.
Yep.
Right. And then the carrying forward piece builds upon both of those two initial C's that we talked about, right? Where I'm going to capture the item. I'm going to understand who it's about. I'm going to contextualize who it's about, when it needs to be done, how high of a priority it is.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to continue to carry that until action is needed, or until I feel like you maybe need some affirmations around those things, right? I'm not going to surface things simply because you put an arbitrary date on it, right? If something needs to be done by a given date, right? Sure, of course. It's going to be like, hey, this needed to be done by April 30th or by December 31st, right? So let's make sure we get that in front of you. But then there's other things that, they're not just time-based. They're definitely like relative to the other things going on in your lives, the people involved in your lives, and how those things are also moving. What I'm carrying forward for you has to move with those things.
Right. So going back to, there was something you said in there about the contextualization stuff too, and how the carry forward is actually really how somebody approaches a task makes a big difference based on the relationships, right?
Yeah.
And how it's connected to your life. So for instance, like a social request for like for a lunch or something, taking away even AI or assistance or productivity tools, you're going to respond to differently for like your best friend versus, say, a work colleague, right?
Right.
So without the contextualization, like everyth's related, right? It's all about relationships.
Yep. 100%. And how you're going to prioritize things is also based on those relationships. So your best friend is going to take higher priority than random social contact that maybe you're just starting a friendship with. Right. So the same type of request can come in, but how it's going to be carried into your life and what priority it's going to take in your life is definitely going to vary based on where it's coming from, who it's coming from, when it might be coming in.
Right. So. And a flat to-do list that you're just looking at a grid on an app can't surface that kind of richness, right?
Right. And in addition, let's say you do want to have that lunch with that new social contact that maybe you want to develop a friendship with, but you've got 15 other things on your plate right now. A flat to-do list just has it as another item on the list, right? And maybe you can flag it as like, this one's the highest priority, this one's the middle priority, right? But those are really just arbitrary markers that are at any given moment in time. And your life is constantly changing. So having something that can constantly have insight into what you have going on and where your priorities really lie, and things that really need to happen time-based versus just, generally is super important for being able to fit those things in that you do want to fit in, but be able to fit them in at a time that truly works for what you have going on.
Yeah, makes sense. Back to capture. So like real life happens, people running between places. I was talking about me missing text messages, running around. Like what is capture really like?
It should be in the moment. It should facilitate you being able to just grab something in the moment and send it to a system that should be able to take that in and understand that like that's something that you're going to have to revisit later.
Right.
If you're having to go in the moment and enter 10 things about the item that you're trying to capture, or one or two things about the item you're trying to capture, your system's already failed you. Right? In the moment, that's not the time for that. So what we're building at Backlit is a system that allows you to just capture in the moment and either through the system and what they know about you, or yourself coming in later, being able to add the contextualization that's needed for you to be able to act on that thing later.
Right. Life is messy. Like you can't rush in between appointments. You're not going to be able to take 30 seconds to put it into the right categories and figure out when it's due and stuff. Just like remind me later. Like, life happens.
Right. And if the system can do a lot of that categorization for you,
oh, even better.
That's even better.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So then carry forward. We talked about the difference between, say, a to-do list, which is like just storing. You have this like big grid of things that like is like, I mean, honestly, right? Like staring at you saying all the things you're not doing, right?
Yeah.
We've taken a different approach where like Backlit takes responsibility for things that should be happening in your life. Like, what does that mean in practice? Like, what does that mean for somebody who's now has a system that is carrying forward these important things on their behalf?
Right. So a lot of systems today are designed to draw you in to the
Yeah.
actual system, to keep you engaged in the system, looking at your phone,
Yeah.
tapping buttons.
Yeah.
Right. What Backlit does is it's really aiming to get you able to disengage
Yeah.
from your phone, to
Right.
be more present in your life. And that's what carrying forward really means in Backlit.
Right. The presence of being able to say something else has got it. I can spend time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got it so you don't have to.
A mentor of mine once said, what you say no to matters almost more than what you say yes to, right? No is a very important word. It's both a word and a complete sentence. So in a few ways, what is Backlit saying no to? What are we not going to be?
Yeah. So I think a large part of our conversation, we've talked about things like tasks and to-dos, because that really lands with people today, because that is what they've had available to them in terms of offerings, right? Our general purpose task managers and to-do lists. That is not what Backlit is, right? Our goal is not to build yet another task manager, not a project plan manager, right? We're not focused on getting you into an app and having you engage in an app. Our entire premise behind Backlit when it was founded was focusing on how do we get our users more present in their daily lives.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a world where screens and technologies have just become such a massive part of our everyday. You know, you walk around on the street and you see people just, glued to their phones.
Yeah.
Right? We want to help facilitate a world where that's no longer the case.
Right.
Right? There's still a lot that you're going to have to manage. It's just the reality of where we are today. Technology has evolved, and everything about our lives is basically living in technology, but that doesn't mean that we have to live connected to it.
Right.
So what we're building with Backlit is something that plugs into those technologies, plugs into the fact that we know your life is embedded into these technologies, and we're able to build a solution for you that learns from what's going on without you having to engage in it and be attached to it, so that you can then trust that those things that are coming through and informing you about this is where you need to be on this date, or this needs to be done, or my child needs to wear this color jersey to their soccer game instead of the one that I originally thought they needed to. You're not spending your days glued to your phone managing that and triaging it. You trust that you have a system that's doing that for you, so that you can just actually focus on watching the soccer game.
That's great. All right. So there's this common belief or sort of kind of understanding that the way that people create positive change or stick to these systems is like gamification, or like, the streaks and stuff in badges in the apps and stuff. Like, what's our opinion on that?
Yeah, so we feel that these streaks, the gamification of a lot of these habit building apps, they actually increase anxiety and promote addiction. And nobody builds good habits through anxiety.
No, makes perfect sense. Thank you for joining me in this conversation today. Appreciate all of the time that we've spent thinking very deeply about what we want to do and what we don't want to do for users. Any parting words? Anything that you want to basically say about what we're building at Backlit?
I have known Nick for a very long time. So when he told me his ideas for Backlit, I was incredibly excited, because I am the ideal user for an application like this or a solution like this. And so I'm super excited that I've been able to work with you on, the foundation of what this is going to look like and what it's going to deliver to the market, because I feel like it's greatly needed.
Yeah. How many times have we said to each other, gosh, I wish Backlit was done right now. Like everyone needs it. So thank you for joining me. If this any of this resonated with people we're building in the open, we'd love to have you come join the conversation at Backlit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.